Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Life and Dating After Divorce podcast. I am your host, Shade Curry. It is a pleasure to be back with you all today. And I have in the studio a very special guest. I know most of you have heard of her because we have talked about her sometimes in the coaching classes. I have here on the podcast Dr. Jennie Young of the Burned Haystack Dating Method. She's here to share with us about her upcoming book, her method, and all things dating on the internet in 2026. So I'm just going to read her bio real quick. So for those of you who are not familiar with her work, you have a background. And then Dr. Jennie is going to share all of her wisdom with us. So she's a rhetoric professor and creator of the viral Burned Haystack Dating Method. And she teaches women how to decode the language men use on dating apps to quickly identify red flags. She has an upcoming book, Burn the Haystack, Decode Dating, Torch the Duds, and Make Room for the Men Who Matter. And basically what she does is explores how common phrases in dating profiles can reveal much more than they appear to. That way you can avoid wasting time on incompatible matches before the first date ever happens. And I heard of the method because it went viral. I read her article, and there's a community of over 260,000 women who are now using this to decode dating profiles on the internet. So this is going to be a fun conversation. Dr. Young, welcome to the podcast. Please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, first of all. Yeah, I am a single woman who got fed up with my experience on the dating apps and decided to use my academic expertise, which is applied rhetoric. I'm a professor, and that's one of the things I teach. And I decided I was going to try to address this academically, and I started sharing it. And then, the rest is kind of what you've already stated, which is that it just sort of literally caught fire. Or figuratively
Amazing.
Caught fire, I guess.
The haystack caught fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing to really see the academic rigor being brought to the dating scene. And I love that personally because there's just so much fluff or just, it's just sort of like, I think one of the complaints my clients hear from me a lot is that, I feel like everybody feels that they can just say whatever they want about dating and relationships, like your mother and your auntie and your sister. And I'm like, no, not everybody has the wisdom to do this. And so I think more voices like yours who are bringing academic rigor to the industry are very, very welcome. I'd like to start with how all this started. Because you applied rhetoric, you were working with this. What was the moment where you thought, you know what, I think this has applications with dating?
Yeah, so it almost kind of worked the other way around, and I'll explain that in a second. It wasn't that I was looking for a real life mission to apply my expertise to. It's that I was having a truly horrible experience in real life because I was on the dating apps. And I did what a lot of women do at first, I think, which is that, I'd kind of I'd be ready to give it a try. So I'd download Bumble or Hinge or whatever. And, I'd spend all this time setting up my profile, and I'd kind of have high hopes going into it. And then in a very short period of time, usually the first day, I would just be horrified and become completely demoralized with not only the matches that I was getting from the app, but the behavior of the men who belong to those profiles. And then I'd kind of gaslight myself, like a lot of women. I'd be like, I must be missing something. I just don't get it. I'm not what people want, or I'm not cut out for this kind of modality. But this is how people meet in this era. I'm not going to go to bars and sit there and wait for someone to notice me. So I guess my only other these are my two options, right? I can constantly feel aggressed and exploited and frightened and angry on these dating apps, or I can just decide to make peace with it. I'm going to remain alone for the rest of my life. And I'd always end up thinking, yeah, I'm fine alone. I actually wasn't miserable being single. So I kept making that decision that a lot of women are making, which is that like, this isn't worth it. But then once I sort of like got out of the emotional reaction to it, I realized like this actually isn't okay. Like, not only is it not okay for me, it's not okay for any women that this many of us are trying to function in this domain that is so misogynistic and so toxic and so racist and so ableist and so commodified and so capitalistic. And then I really got angry and I thought, yeah, we're just not going to do this anymore. Like, there needs to be another way. And that's when I decided to start bringing in my academic expertise. So that was a long answer. I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. What was the most exciting thing you'd applied rhetoric to before dating? Because clearly dating is the most exciting thing. But prior to that, like, what had you applied it to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that people don't generally ask me, but it's really relevant to what I'm doing now. So I started my teaching career as a high school teacher in a rural, poverty-stricken high school that was specifically for students who'd gotten kicked out of their primary high school. So it was a public school, but it was kind of like this. They didn't bill it that way, but not everybody who was there got kicked out of school, but a lot of the students did. It was like an alternative school. And I realized pretty quickly how closely aligned this school was with prisons, with American prisons, like max security prisons. And I started studying that rhetorically. And I actually left high school teaching to pursue an academic career because I wanted to study that theoretically. And my first book is about the intersection of American high schools and prisons. And the methodology I used to address that was something called critical discourse analysis, which is the whole foundation of Burned Haystack. So I'm doing the same thing I did all those years ago, but just to a different application.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it sounds like you were listening sort of for like red flags that young people were sort of in this environment that wasn't nurturing to them. Is that like in the way things were described, or the way young people were described, or the way things were written?
Mostly the way things were written. So what I was doing was taking high school handbooks, which contained all the like disciplinary programs of high school, including things like dress codes, which are so like horribly gendered. And I was coding for patterns. I was doing linguistic coding for toxic patterns in these high school handbooks. And then I just started doing that with men's profiles on the dating apps.
That is like you're just out here in the world doing God's work everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is, wow, I'm so inspired. And thank you. Thank you for your work. So,
Thank you.
all right, I could go down the rabbit trail
Yeah.
of the high schools, but we're going to stick to today's topic. So you started decoding dating profiles using your expertise. How did that change things for you in your dating life?
I think the most powerful thing it did was depersonalize the experience, so that instead of me thinking, oh my gosh, this is so hurtful, I feel so, whatever it was, scared, pissed off, vulnerable, demoralized. Instead, once I started cataloging all these patterns, I could just say, oh, that's a disciplinary directive male profile. I'm done with that guy. That's test and apologize profile. I'm done with that guy. That's are you my mother pattern. I'm done with that guy. That's were you at the Capitol on January 6th pattern. I'm done with that guy. And there's 33 different rhetorical patterns in my book, but the beauty of them is that once you learn them, and I guarantee I think people panic and think, I can't memorize 33 rhetorical patterns. You don't have to. If you're a woman on the dating apps, you've seen them all. Trust me. Like it won't be memorization. It'll just be recognition. But what women keep telling me is that as soon as I saw you talking about the Cuddle Bears pattern on Instagram, I was like, oh, yeah, I get that every single day. Now I don't even think about it. I just move on. I block that guy and move on.
Yeah, I'm guessing these are the men who say that physical touch is their love language, those men?
I mean, yeah, yes, yeah. It's shocking that that's like 99.9% of their love languages. And I think what happened with the whole cuddling, snuggling phenomenon is that somebody has told these guys, like, women don't actually like it when you talk about having sex with them in your dating profile because they don't know you and you're a stranger on the internet, and that's super creepy. So instead, they just started saying things like, I love to snuggle and cuddle. And all women are like, yeah, that's not better. That's equally icky, right? But it's all part of this same problem.
And I have noticed that. So I've been a dating coach now. I was a divorce coach first. I'm still a divorce coach, but like really centering on dating. I really switched into that right around 2021. So it's been a few years now. And over that period, I realized that it's as soon as, I teach my clients, okay, look out for this or look out for that. It's like the men catch up. They're like, oh, I mean, I'm sure other dating coaches are experiencing the same thing. It's not like I created anything that they're catching up to. It's just as soon as we started looking out for how they treated the server on the first date.
That's a great example. Yeah.
Now they're always nice to the server on the first date. And then it's down the line that you then see the other behaviors. And it's caused me to really teach my clients that there are no formulas. Like you can arm yourself, but you have to develop sort of the ability to read character.
Yes. And that's so nuanced, right? And changes so much from guy to guy that you can't make it formulaic.
Right.
Not too formulaic.
And my take on it with clients has always been you have to own your own thinking and your own feeling. It doesn't mean if you have an intuitive hit or when you feel like, oh, is this a red flag? It doesn't mean you break up with him on the spot. And it doesn't mean you don't maybe take a chance and go on a date, but never dismiss what you're thinking because it would only get confirmed or you'll be able to say, oh, no, that was a one-off with time.
Right.
But a lot of women that I talk to are trying to have a checklist so that they never have to encounter someone who might turn out to be one of these guys. But I'm like, you're good. They're everywhere. They're in your church. They're in your workplace. They're in your family.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about some of the patterns, right? And I picked a couple of the ones that you've talked about in your social media content, like the test and apologize, the blue ribbon. Let's talk about the blue ribbon for bare minimum.
So
what is that and how do we deal with that?
This one is everywhere, and it manifests in ways that range from like hilarious to terrifying. So let's do the hilarious end of that spectrum first. It's the guys who are bragging about things like having a job or brushing their teeth or changing their sheets. Some of them are doing it in jest, which also isn't like that's not great humor anymore. But many of them aren't. Like you can tell they really do think they should be congratulated for like these very basic aspects of adult life. And then on the more extreme end of it is, and I post these things on Instagram and women who've never been on the dating apps think, well, that doesn't really happen, but it does over and over and over again. The men who are like, I have never hit a woman. I will never hit you. And that seems to be their, like, they think that qualifies them as enlightened in some way or special. So, I mean, that's a huge red flag. That should tell you what the standards that they're going to hold themselves to. I also assume that's a technicality. Like, my first thought is, well, yeah, it's because you've pushed women or you're normal, healthy men don't say that because it doesn't occur to them that they would have to, right? Like, their underlying assumption is, I just don't hit people because I'm civilized. So the men who are announcing it, like that alone is a problem.
100%.
Yeah.
Like you said, some of them are doing it for different reasons. Like there's the man who's like so proud of himself for having being a guy who would never do that. And he feels entitled to be loved and adored.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, listen, I am the prize because
Mhm.
he might truly never hit a woman, but he feels like he's the prize because
Right.
he
Right.
wouldn't. And any woman who has experienced toxic abuse
Right.
should be glad to have him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're right. That's an interesting intersection. It definitely does intersect with that pattern, which is also everywhere. The I'm the prize pattern. Yeah.
Yes, I'm the prize pattern. And like you said, again, the bare minimum, or I'm going to try to make sure that they don't know that I have done this by saying I would never do it.
Yeah.
I mean, dating today, it's really interesting because those of us who are in our 40s and 50s currently and
Hmm.
dating currently, we're in this almost strange twilight zone where there's so much information available. Like all of these things
Yeah.
have been happening, but we didn't know. So it's almost like women were just falling into these things on their own. And if you could save yourself, you could. And if you didn't, well, too bad. But
Right,
now it's
right.
almost like our consciousness has been expanded because of social
Hmm.
media. I know my
Yes.
my divorce journey and healing journey happened because of social media and the internet. Like I was
Interesting.
39 years old. I had never heard about narcissists or codependents
Hmm.
until I went on the internet, like, what's going on with me? Found this
Right.
whole community.
Yeah.
So now we know this is happening. Dating is really weird because you're going in understanding that there's all these issues that are
Hmm.
there, but we still want partners.
Right, right. And that's okay. Like it's totally fine for women to make the decision to be on their own, and it's also totally fine to want to find love. Like that is also a human, desire for many people. And I fear that we're like trivializing that too much in some cases and sort of framing that as like, well, if you were a true feminist, you wouldn't need a man at all. And while that might be true, that doesn't mean you can't want one, right? Like that's okay too.
Not
Yeah.
that it is true, because I think the whole point of feminism is that women get to choose. Like each woman
Yes,
is
exactly.
autonomous
Right,
and
right.
should be allowed to
Yeah.
choose what's best for her,
Yes,
without
absolutely.
pressure or influence, and without sort of, I guess that's a whole conversation, because when we do choose, are we choosing because we actually know what we're choosing, or have we been conditioned
Right, right.
to choose certain things? So that's
Yeah,
a whole
right.
other
Yeah.
conversation. But the basic idea is every woman is her own person and should be able to choose
Mhm.
what she wants and be free to do that. So I have another question for you around, and this is one of the things that gets me too as a dating coach, because my clients will say, maybe I should give him a chance.
Yeah.
Should I be open? Like maybe I'm
Mhm.
being too picky. I'm being too cynical. I have trust issues. What are your
Right,
thoughts on
right.
that?
So, yeah, we talk about this a lot in Burned Haystack. The first thing I say in response to that is think of all the women you know who are in your life, whether that's your grandmother or your mother or your sisters or your friends, and then think of what they've tolerated from men. And think of what they're tolerating right now from men. And then ask yourself again, are women too picky? Are women demanding too much? Obviously, we're not. We're tolerating way too much. We're taking too much abuse. I don't know if I know like even one woman that I would say is too picky or demanding too much. I just don't. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. It's definitely not the problem. That's not the problem. Women
Yeah,
aren't picky and demanding enough.
100%. And every woman's standards are going to be different. It comes
Right.
back to that individual. Like if you
Hmm.
might like one thing and be okay with it, and I might want something
Right.
completely different. And what I tell women is, listen, just you're not too picky. However, because I think the question behind the question is, am I too picky? Am I so picky that I'll never find someone?
Right. Well, I think it's worth talking about within the context of certain metrics. Like the one I do think is maybe standing in some women's way is I hear a lot of women saying, I won't date anyone without an advanced degree. And the reality is that in America, college degree status is much more closely related to family socioeconomics than it is to intelligence or ambition or anything like that. I think that's not as true in other countries, but it's definitely true in America. And it's also not necessarily tied to income. Like, there are a lot of men in the trades making way more money than men with degrees. And, as someone who works with like a bunch of men with PhDs, they're not smarter. They're just not. That's one where I would say, yeah, maybe, because I don't think it's lowering your standards. I think it's changing your standards on that. But in terms of like how men treat us, like that, I don't think we should compromise on at all.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and a person's demographics don't indicate their character. So
No.
a person could be,
Right.
I mean, I have coached women whose husbands were multimillionaires
Yeah. And they're
and
assholes,
treated them
right? Yeah.
like they were a pimp, like literally,
Yes.
you know. I have
Right.
coached women who were highly religious pastors' wives. I mean,
Mhm.
like high income families where the men were just as abusive as you might see in a poor family where they're struggling
Yes.
and then the father is taking out all of his frustration on the kids or on the wife. They're doing it
Right.
in high income families as well. In
Right.
educated men literally do this. I mean, I've just heard so many abuse because I've worked with women who are either being emotionally abused, physically abused, financially controlled, spiritual abuse, and across the
Yep. Yeah.
it's the same.
Right.
I always tell women, listen, you have to look at the human that's in front of you, which is a lot of work. Our brains,
Mhm.
Evolutionarily are not willing to, it wants to make a split-second decision about the man. It really doesn't want to have to think about it for very long, which is where
Mhm.
your expertise is very helpful in doing that initial split-second. Like, let's weed
Yeah.
out the ones that are obviously a problem.
Right. And that's what Burned Haystack does, is serve as like a shortcut or a series of cheat codes almost, so that you can make those snap decisions, but the snap decisions you're making are rooted in like very critical, extensive thought. But like you've already
Yes.
done that work in advance. So when you're on the apps, you're just like,
100. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. I mean, you're bringing the academic rigor. You've done a bunch of thought and writing and thinking about it. Now you're giving it to them in your book, which we're going to talk about. So then they read the book and they have sort of like that. You've deposited the thinking in them with your book. And now they can, I totally love that. That's amazing. Yes. So they've done the slow thinking ahead of time so they can now think fast when they're on the apps.
Exactly.
So
that's why it's great for speed dating too. And I know a lot of people aren't really doing speed dating, but if you want to try it, like I always tell women, learn the rhetorical patterns first. Because then when you go into that speed dating or whatever kind of in real life event where you don't have, the benefit of time to consider, you won't need it. You'll just be good at it already.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things your work and your book does is also helps women, because this is one of my pet peeves, is also that investment of energy to figure things out.
Yes,
Investment of energy that comes from like, well, maybe I should go on a date and then I'll see. All of that thinking and calculating and then even investing a little bit and then finding out, oh, he was a dud, just like I thought.
Right. And it's not even just the date, right? Like, it's the time spent leading up to the date. It's figuring out what you're going to wear. It's, getting to the date. That's all like real labor. It's emotional labor and actual labor. And we're already all probably working a lot. Like most women in my platforms are working in some capacity. So yeah, we don't want to add that. I know there are women who are just like, no, I want to go out on as many dates as possible and meet a bunch of people, which is fine. That's not what Burned Haystack is geared towards. So I tell women, like, if that's your goal, like, don't use my method because you'll be disappointed. Like, you're going to go out on far fewer dates and meet far fewer people with Burned Haystack, but the likelihood of that being a good experience that could lead to something long-term monogamous is much higher. Yeah.
Yep. Nope. You and I are on the same page. My clients will come to me and they'll be like, well, my app queue was empty this week. I'm like, great.
Good. That means you're right. Exactly. I know. I'm always like, good job. Yeah.
This means you're not dating anyone who is not right for you. That means you've applied. I use my method is core values, a core values dating blueprint. So we go from their core values to who they should be saying yes to on the apps. And it's always a very small number.
It always, yeah. And it always was a small number, like even pre-dating app. It's just that the dating apps give everyone this notion that there's like unlimited numbers, of people to date all the time. And that's never been true. So that's an illusion, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even if you did have access to all the people,
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to throw numbers, there are no statistics behind this
Yeah.
estimate. But if I were to estimate, I would say, out of 100 men, there's like maybe 10 that you would
Maybe.
enjoy
Yeah.
going on a
Right.
date with.
Yeah.
And out of that 10, maybe 4 would be, values compatible
Right.
with
Right.
you, whoever you are, because we all have different values. And then
Right.
maybe 1 or 2 you could
Right.
consider
Yeah.
actually, partnering with or dating long term. And
Right.
so for some people, you can use a method of like, I'm just going to run through 100 people
Mm-hmm.
to get to my 10, 4, and 2. Or you can be
Right.
like, I'm going to learn how to weed out
Yeah.
the
I'm going right
90
to the 10, 4, and 2. Yeah.
and just go straight
Yeah.
for the 10.
Right.
And another method, and I know I wonder if this is something you've talked about in your group as well, is then curating in real life environments. I constantly encourage my clients. I'm like, you're more likely to meet the kind of people you want in spaces where those people hang out
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
versus the apps, which are more like, it's like the apps are like the grocery store or a bar. It's just so random.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't done too much with like trying to figure out how people can meet in real life. I live in the northern Midwest, which is not a population dense area, and there's not speed dating events here. I don't think, not that I've ever heard of. So I feel like because that's so far outside my experience, I can't really weigh in on it. But I know like in larger metropolitan areas, there's kind of like a resurgence of interest in in-person events. And also there's just more to do, right? Like there's meetups everywhere and there's events to go to. And yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about the book. Like what's happening there? What's it called? Like how do we get to it? All the things.
Yeah. Okay, so the book is called Burned Haystack, Decode Dating, Torch the Duds, and Make Room for Men Who Matter. And there's a subtle dig there in that subtitle, right? Which is kind of like, if we're not interested in you, then you don't matter. On the dating apps. I'm not saying they don't matter as human beings, but I'm saying like in terms of being a viable entity in this market, you have disqualified yourself. So you can buy the book anywhere you buy books. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, ebooks, a lot of indie bookstores, the Libby app. Libraries have been really good to burn the haystack so far. So you can buy it anywhere. The book is the comprehensive manual on Burned Haystack Dating Method. It has all the rules of engagement. There's 10 rules of engagement in detail with examples. It has all 33 rhetorical patterns in detail with examples. All the examples in the book are from actual men's profiles, like with their grammatical problems and everything, which has left it all the same. And then there's also a number of other like rhetorical tactics you can use to just sort of sharpen your game. And a lot of that requires a lot of nuance that like it just needed a book. Like I can't go on an in-depth discussion of what a heuristic is in a podcast because it just needs more time than that. But it's also like a superpower if you're on the dating apps. There's a chapter on how to apply it beyond the apps and then also beyond dating in general. And there's 2 women profiled who found like a different way to approach virtual dating. And they both met their partners doing it. Very unorthodox, but in-depth interviews with both of them and tons of information on exactly what they did. One of them gamed the apps in a whole new way. The other one harnessed social media to find someone, and it's all explained in there. Some alternate approaches for people who are like completely fed up, but also like might, live in a small town or somewhere that meeting in person seems unlikely.
Yeah. And you mentioned, now I lost the train of, there was something you mentioned and I wanted to ask about. Oh, you mentioned grammatical errors.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, so people assume that I'm like constantly judging everyone's grammar and spelling because I'm an English professor. And that's, I mean, I was going to say that's not true. It's kind of true. But again, that's sort of like, obviously, grammar matters to me. I'm an English professor, but I also don't think that someone's grammar like equates to their worth as a human being. Now, if some guy's profile is such a problem that it's unreadable, I think that's a problem for everyone because what that communicates is that he didn't care enough. I mean, first of all, the apps all have built-in like autocorrect and everything too, right? Like they will help you. Like there's a million ways to sort of like get your language readable. And and if they're not taking the extra minute or two to do that, you might want to question like how serious they are about communication in
100%.
general, dating in particular.
Yeah. Like, what is their minimum standard for,
Right,
presenting
yeah.
themselves to other human
Right,
beings? Like that, we should
right,
think about that.
right.
What about the community? Tell us about the. And I have friends who have been in the community. I've recommended it to people.
Yeah.
How many? I think last I checked, it was 200, over 250,000 women were in your Facebook community.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's continue. Yeah, we're at 260 something thousand. So I guess the first thing I would say is that you definitely don't have to be single and dating to be in the Facebook community. Like you're like, I'm now partnered. A lot of the women in Burned Haystack are either already partnered or don't even want to be partnered. It's become, just a feminist support group kind of. It's hilarious. I've done a lot of humor writing, and humor is really important to me. There's a lot of humor in the book. There's actually like humor writing interspersed throughout the serious chapters because like you need that to survive dating in 2026. Yeah, it's a killer group of hilarious, smart, feminist, progressive, politically liberal women.
Amazing, amazing. You have
Yeah,
just done such wonderful work here. And you mentioned that you are now partnered.
I am.
Did the
Yeah.
Burned Haystack method work for you? What
It
what
it
happened?
it did. Shocker. But no one's more surprised than me. I had been off the dating apps for most like from the point the community started taking off and I got the book deal and everything, because I'm also still working full time. So like I have a full-time job and I'm moderating the social media. And then I wrote the book. Like I didn't have the forethought to apply for a sabbatical or anything before I had to write the book because I didn't know the book was going to happen. So basically like something in my life had to go. And I decided it was my love life, which is fine. Like I like rhetoric more than I like men. So it wasn't like a sacrifice for me. But I did make I did make a deal with the women in the community that once I handed that book manuscript over, I would like give it a go. So I'd have some skin in the game. So I got back on the dating apps in June, this past June, for the first time in years. And I met my partner, Pat, in July, end of July. For the record, I went out on one date this summer and I'm still with him. And it's going really well. So we've been together about 8 months now. It was, just to reassure everyone, it was the strictest application of Burned Haystack because like professionally I couldn't take that risk, right? Like I had to put my money where my mouth was or put my, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy
Yeah.
for you.
Thank you.
Was there something on his profile that you saw that just personally you were like, oh,
Mhm.
I have to hear more. I have to, this person sounds like someone that I want to, talk to.
That's a great question, and it's really relevant because I think women, and I know I used to be like this. I would look for a profile that like really wowed me, really like caught my attention. But what we've learned and what I've learned from other women in the community who found their partners before I did is that what you're really looking for with a man's profile is just for it not to have red flags. It doesn't have to knock your socks off. It doesn't even have to be super exciting. And sometimes if they're trying too hard, to be funny or to be, whatever, that could be a red flag in itself. Pat's profile was solid. Like he had filled out all the categories. He had a nice set of pictures, not too many pictures, but I could clearly see his face. His dogs were in a couple of them. His daughter was in one picture, but the angle was such in a way, it was at her doctoral graduation. It was a way that you could see his face, but not hers, which I thought was thoughtful, right? He wasn't like putting other people in his profile without their consent. And yeah, it just seemed appealing to me. He identified as a teacher, which I thought would be a good match for me, being in education. And then what I had started doing, and this is new, and I talk about it in the book, years ago, I would identify myself very clearly as like a liberal progressive feminist because I thought it's better for me to repel the men for whom that wouldn't be a good match, right? So like Trump voters can just keep on moving. The problem right now for liberal women on the dating apps is that there's a lot of who don't want to date conservative men, which is the majority of us. There's a lot of conservative men out there who are just flat out lying because they're having a very hard time getting dates right now, even with conservative women. Like a lot of conservative women don't even want to date conservative men, which is hilarious. They started their own app just for political conservatives, and like there were no women on it. I mean, there were a few, but not nearly enough. Like that, it kind of like backfired on them because it made things even worse. So then what I decided to do was not give anything about my politics away in my profile to appear totally neutral. Like I didn't list myself as a teacher or a professor because both of those code liberal. What I did instead was write some opening move questions that were intended to give me rhetorical information about a man. But since he didn't know what I was looking for, I figured they'd just answer honestly because they wouldn't know one way or the other. And the one I used that was most powerful, I said, if you could change one thing about America right now, what would it be? That reveals
Great
political
question.
orientation 100% of the time. Seriously, it never failed me. Because, a lot of men said things like, yeah, I'd redo our current administration, in which case I knew, that might potentially be a good match. Whereas others were like, I'd stop trying to get everybody vaccinated is what I'd do. And I'd be like, nope. Or I'd get the pledge back in the schools, which it's still in the schools. So like things like that code, scream conservative. The question that I don't remember if Pat chose this one or if the app delivered it to him, because I think I had like 3 different questions. One of my questions was, if AI really does usher in the apocalypse, what skills will you bring to the situation? And I did that to root out the guys who would make it immediately sexual, which for the record was the majority of them. And I read a lot of horrible responses to that question, but it did allow me to block to burn them, which is rule number 4, immediately. Pat's answer said he's a middle school math teacher. And he wrote, I guess I'd have to say algebra. We won't need it the way we don't need it now, but at some point someone might want it and I'll be there. And I thought, I love that response.
Great answer.
What a great answer, because it shows humor. It's kind of self-deprecating. It's not pushy, but it's kind of like, but, I'm not going to push this on you, but if you want it, I'll help you. And I'm telling you, this is a win for critical discourse analysis, because that, the things I just identified, that describes his personality to a T. That's who he is. To this day.
I mean, he's like, I'm going to preserve this little bit of knowledge for humankind.
Right.
Just in case we need it.
Right. Just in case we need it. But I won't be offended if people don't want it. And that's him too. He's not pushy. He's not domineering. He doesn't assume that, what he thinks or does is more important than others. But he's like, but if you want me to help, I'll help. I'm here. And that's just, those are good qualities of a partner. So that's what
100%.
appealed to me about our first exchange. Yeah.
Well, let him know I enjoyed algebra when I was in high school.
Did you? Okay, well, I did not. I'm glad that you did.
I did. It was later on when I got to calculus, I was like, I hit my limit with calculus. Couldn't make it over the
I didn't
hump.
even make it to calculus. They were like, calculus is not for you. Or you are not for calculus.
Goodness. And I really appreciate what you said about the political, because it really is different now than it was, I think.
So different.
Personal, I'm married to a man who is, I don't even know, I mean, he is conservative, but not in the moderate. We both considered ourselves moderate.
Okay.
8 years ago.
Okay.
At the time that we met.
In the before times. Yeah.
In the before times.
Yeah, right.
I was on my journey out of conservatism. I come from a very conservative culture. I was raised in Nigeria.
Okay.
And I was religious. So, just upbringing, socialization, conditioning, I was conservative, but I
Right.
had a lot of social progressive views. I was like, well, I probably
Mhm.
wouldn't abort a kid, but like every woman should have a right, So I had
Yeah,
those
right,
mixed
right. Mhm.
views.
Yeah.
And then after my divorce in 2016, I was like, heck, I started,
Yeah.
that's what radicalized me, you could say.
Yeah, yeah.
2016, I became a radical. I started like moving things that way. But when I met him in 2018, so I was kind of on that
Yeah,
journey.
yeah.
And so we did have the conversation about our politics. We were like, listen,
Mhm.
what's going on with you? I was like, Trump, I believe at that time was running for office in 2018.
I can't remember. I'd have to
Yeah.
look back.
Anyway, he was in the picture because,
Right.
we walked into church one day and his face was on all the seats. So he
Yikes.
was, I think it was during the campaign,
Okay.
so we talked about a lot of things and we were like, okay, yeah, we're kind of like left of center, right of center on the things that
Mhm.
matter most. We are in agreement. What we
Mhm.
didn't anticipate, and so we got through the first administration. We got married in 2019. We got through the first administration. Okay,
Yeah.
we had some arguments,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
overall, everyone's well-being was, on everyone's mind.
Mhm.
What we didn't anticipate was this current administration.
Yeah, right. Or the
You know, I-
pandemic, right? And what that would mean. Yeah.
yeah, and at this point,
Mhm.
it was like, listen, there's no such thing as left of center, right of center. You basically have to choose sides, which is what you're talking about with, you know, dating. Women are like, no, you got to choose sides now. And unfortunately, we are getting a very amicable, like totally just no, you could say no acrimony, unlike my first divorce, which was like traumatic and crazy. This
Mhm.
one is more like, okay, we don't want to argue about politics every single day
Right,
for the
right.
next 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we are getting a divorce. This is my second divorce, but
You
I
are.
mean,
Okay.
it's like a good
Yeah.
divorce because it's like, well,
Good,
if I wanted to
good.
divorce anybody, this is the person I would want to divorce. And we both
Yeah.
realized that we're gonna miss the good times. Like
Right.
we had a lot of
Eh,
intellectual compatibility.
mm,
Our kids, he'll be at my daughter's graduation in a few months. Like
okay.
all
Yeah.
of that is good, but
Right.
I think the choices people are being forced to make around the current politics means you
Yeah.
can't really be on the fence. Like everyone, you kind of have to, and I think he's more of a kind of straddle the fence kind of guy, which is one of the things I
Yeah.
loved about him because, he got along with everyone and he was
Yeah,
nice and,
right. Yeah, no, that really resonates with me what you're saying. And yeah, it's a shame that it has to be this way. But yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
shame, but then also I don't think divorce is a
I didn't
person.
mean your divorce is
No,
a
I meant,
shame. I meant the
yeah,
political,
the
like that.
political
I mean,
landscape. Oh, well,
yeah,
yes.
right. No, it sounds like you've completed your relationship, right? So
Yeah, I think we're
you
on
could look
different
at it
journeys
that
now.
way. Yeah,
Because I'm
right.
on the
Yeah.
journey to like burn shit down and
Yeah, right. Well, the haystack is with you. Yeah.
yes! Oh,
Yeah.
I love that phrase. May the
Yeah.
haystack be with you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this was so good. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
I
you for
would love for
having
you
me
to
on.
just kind of give, now that you have created the method, you've met your partner, we're all going
Yeah.
to buy the book, I believe, on April 8th. You'll be in the
April
show notes for
7th.
everyone.
Yeah.
April,
Mhm.
April 7th.
Yeah. I mean, you can
Uh,
pre-order it anytime, but yeah, official release date is April 7th.
April 7th, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. April 7th, you'll buy the book. I would love for you to give like just some words of advice because, we've all been there after a
Yeah.
breakup, after a divorce. We're all like,
Mhm.
oh, am I going to have to go out there and like check out these guys and try again? And what are what is just one or two pieces of advice you'd love to give the listeners about dating
Yeah.
after a divorce or dating after a breakup or dating in 2026 in general?
Sure. So I think the first thing I'd say to someone saying, oh, I'm going to have to get back out there. No, you don't. Like, you actually don't. A lot of women are not making that decision. I keep seeing more and more articles about women who are like choosing to live together in tiny home communities where they all get together and make dinner together. Like, that sounds amazing for all of us, right? So there are other options and there are going to be other options. And the best thing I can say is like, don't worry about it, especially in the aftermath of a breakup or a divorce. Don't worry about men. Like, don't even think about them. Decenter them completely. Do what you want to do. Spend time with your girlfriends and your family and your pets. Because if you find yourself thinking, "Oh my God, I have to, do whatever's necessary to meet a man," like that means you don't want to right now, right? You're not ready. At the point that you feel excited about it, then go ahead and, give it a try and use Burned Haystack. If what I'm talking about aligns with what you want, which is our focus is women who are looking for long-term monogamy. And if not, there's a whole bunch of other options out there, right? Just date to have fun. But yeah, I would say just don't feel like you have to do anything ever. Totally valid.
Gosh, that's so good. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
exciting in many different ways. It's very exciting in many different ways, but your wisdom and your expertise is so good for those of us who are, divorced, dating after divorce. So I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing so
Thank
freely.
you.
Listeners, thank you so much for your time and attention today. The link to pre-order or purchase Dr. Jennie's book will be in the show notes. Please get this book. This book is so important. Buy a copy, buy one for your friends, buy one for your sister. Instead of giving her random advice, I heard this book, okay, and I'm going to be getting copies for my clients because I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. So thank you for sharing with us today. Listeners, thanks for your time and attention. We will see you next time.